Welcome to Built to Finish. I'm your host, Stephen Pivnik. Join me each week as we explore the journeys of audacious goal setters. This includes experienced founders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs sharing pivotal moments that propel their success. We'll also be talking with endurance athletes who push the limits of physical and mental ability. This show is brought to you by Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Built to Finish. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the automotive retail industry with a track record of turning underperforming dealerships into top performers and helping sales teams thrive in a modern digital-first world. He's also a respected writer and speaker with bylines in major automotive publications and speaking credits at top industry conferences like Digital Dealer, AutoCon, and the Internet Sales 20 Group. Oh, did I mention he's an author too? His book, Social Shares the Skills That Pay the Bills, shares practical advice for sales professionals, and he's currently working on 2 more books about the auto industry. He is the president and founder of Dealer eTraining. Stan Sher, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. So tell us a little bit about the journey that you took from working, in dealerships all the way to founding eTraining.
So I started, it's an interesting journey. I started at 20 years old. I started selling cars. I was working since I was 14 years old, just had that work ethic. Then
Nice.
at 20 years old, I ended up I went broke. I saved up a bunch of money. I went to school, decided I'm a big boy now. I'm going to move away from my parents. And I did. And then I went broke about 4 months later, went through my CNEs. And I wanted to get a job where I was taken more seriously. Dress for the job you want, not the job you have, right? So
Right.
it was a lifeguard, and I'm like, let me get into car sales. So I got into selling cars, got good at it real quick, and made a career out of it. Ended up dropping out of school twice, against parents' wishes. But I was doing good at it. And so about 8 years in, I started dealer training in 2010. It was the end of, probably right around this time. I left the dealership and I went to go train with another company. And then I ended up going off on my own and had a lot of tribulations, had successful years, had some not successful years. I went broke 3 times and, finally found my niche. And that's where we're at.
Awesome. So you're really good at car sales. I personally hate the car buying process. And I think, many people would agree with me. It's just not the most pleasant experience. Why do you think that is?
So back in the day, I used to blame the consumer because there's too many resources, the internet, and people make it hard because we do make it hard. We come into negotiate a deal and we make it hard. But I would say that in modern times, I would just say that people are just undertrained. I think I think this business is going for the worse, unfortunately, because just people don't know how to hold a conversation, don't know how to ask the right questions, and everybody's all about the transaction, and people just want to make money and nobody wants to do the job. And I've been saying that for probably 10 years now, but I feel like this newer generation is getting worse and worse. They want everything handed to them. They don't want to work for it. They don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to make it personal. That's why I'm doing this whole guest experience thing this past year. We're trying to get people's mindsets back into treating people as a guest, treating them as people as opposed to just a dollar figure.
Right. Do you think that consumers, see through that, right? When they walk into into a showroom or into a dealership, and then the salesperson, starts having, personal conversations with them. Do you think the consumer, sees through that? Like he's just trying to get on my good side because he's going to rip me off in a minute here.
Some do. At this point, I mean, with the amount of technology we have out there, with the amount of shopping tools we have out there, people know what they want. So I think at this point, there's a lot of it is people are transactional too, but we lost the art of dealing with people, in my opinion. And of course, people are going to feel like car dealerships are certainly, I mean, there's a lot of dealerships that charge bogus fees, on used cars. So that's a norm now to the point where now when people call in for a vehicle, it's like, hey, by the way, what are your fees? What do you charge? So people are expecting to get ripped off at this point.
That's really, really unfortunate. Is there, when you're training individuals or groups, is there a difference in training someone how to sell a new car versus a used car?
Um, well, so when you're selling a new car, you need to have more product knowledge. So new cars come with customer satisfaction surveys. They come with multiple different programs. Sign up for, for Bluetooth, sign up for connected vehicle services. You have to make sure that you do a good job because the factory grades you. There's a lot of money tied into that versus a used car. If you just come in, hey, you want the car? Great, this is the car. So there's a lot more product knowledge involved with new cars. Now, if you're a car person and you're genuinely interested in what you're selling, you're going to get to know about your product. But a lot of people, they ignore that part. They just want to make them.
Nope, I definitely see that. I mean, once in a while, you get this expert salesperson that knows every single number about every single component of the car.
Yes.
So it's actually pretty impressive when they understand their product to the level that some of them do.
Yes, it really is. And usually those people are very talented. They have a passion. They also don't tend, from my experience, they don't tend to sell as many cars because they'll talk about the product forever. I think you have to have a hybrid, just being able to talk to people and know your product. But like I said, I just think that the lost art of professionalism is dying. I see it every day in dealerships.
Well, that's something that I'm assuming you're trying to bring back when you do your projects.
Try. I'm having conversations about generational growth now, right? I was just in a store the other day. I'm talking about millennials and baby boomers. And then I posed this question when I facilitate. I'm putting some of this stuff out on TikTok and Instagram, but I posed the question. You're 22 years old. Your coworker is 65 years old. What can you learn from that 65-year-old? I start with that. And then the next question I ask is, now that you know what you can learn from that, what can you help teach them and inspire them? That's a question that I've been asking a lot. This past week, I've been crazy about.
Okay, I get it. In your book, you focus on people, process, and performance in the framework. So, how did you arrive at that philosophy, and what does each pillar mean in practice?
So my first book, just to give you a little background, my first book is really more about just my come up. Starting as an immigrant kid, growing, having jobs, failing, coming back. So it's really more about me, but the people process, all those philosophies, they're great philosophies. I there's really no secret sauce to it. The real secret sauce is this: you're you build your process of what do you do when you fail?
Hmm.
And I went broke 3 times, right? So because I went broke 3 times, I know what I have to do to get back. I could be 50 grand in debt and within a year I'll pay it off. What am I going to do? I'm going to go if I have no way to make a living, I'm going to spend my 9 to 5 looking for jobs. I'll
Sure.
apply to many jobs. I'll take every meeting I can because you never know who you can meet with. Could be $1 million opportunity, right? So that's my process. My process is just constantly going after it and not giving up. I posted a video of me talking in high school years ago on TikTok. It went a little viral, but I got all this hate because it's a 30-second snippet of how I spent 9 to 5 applying to 150 jobs a day and how I got very little responses, but I finally got out of it, right? And I did this speech within 6 months of this actually happening to me. And people are looking at me like, what is wrong with you? You only have 3 people respond to you. And I'm like, well, that's better than nothing. You have to keep taking your shots, right? And people this day and age, they're too lazy. They'll put something crazy on TikTok, but they won't focus on the process of going where they need to go. And when it comes to people, it's about surrounding yourself with the right network. My father used to say, every experience that you have in life is a good one. And you never know when you might, need to do something. Like you've been driving a stick shift car, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I can stick, right? But it was always like, you need to learn how to drive a stick because you never know when you're going to be at a bar with your friends and you're going to be the only one that's sober and you have to drive, right? So you never know when you're going to get stuck. You're going to have to drive a truck back in the day. So it's every experience that you learn, that you go through is an opportunity for you to do something.
No, I agree that looking at experiences as learning opportunities definitely help you get through this thing we call life. So when you and I spoke last time, you mentioned that communication is key, and communication goes across multiple boundaries and multiple industries. What is your specific style of communication, and what do you teach in your courses?
It's changed a lot because I used to be the guy that was very direct, blunt, still can be, right? But it's changed a lot. And that's what I'm writing my next book about. I didn't have a title yet. I'm on chapter 8. I kind of got stuck a little. I haven't touched it in a month, but now I got some more inspirations. It's sometimes, it's like sometimes you go different places and you experience different things. And now, oh, this inspired me. And then you write down notes. So it's something that I'm hoping to do in the next couple of days. I really want to get this book done. The 8 chapters I wrote in 3 days, and now the rest is taking me a month, month and a half. But for me, communication is, and I had a conversation with somebody about this yesterday, even last night. It's how do you approach things? Do you go at them or do you ask the consultative? I believe, and this is something from being a facilitator, I believe that we need to be consulted in every situation. We all need to be naturally curious. We need to ask more questions. We need to have a way around asking questions so that people don't get confrontational. I use an
Mhm.
example. My community pool, a couple months ago, supervisor of the lifeguards came in and she said something and it got the person, the resident angry and it became combative. It became like this instead of being more friendly about it, more diplomatic about it. So I feel like that's an art that we all need to focus on. And that's really what I've been training lately.
Okay. So with your training, can you describe a great standout success story that resulted as a result of your training, and like what attributed to the breaking sales because of your involvement?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of it has to do, and I don't like to toot my own horn and pound my fist, but a lot of it has to do with just being involved. A lot of it has to do with holding people accountable, looking at the metrics, right? Just making sure that you hit your KPIs, looking at seeing what works. A lot of it's got to do with marketing.
Mhm.
It has to do with how much we spend on what we spend and how much is being managed. I go into dealerships that have 6-figure monthly ad budgets, and they're not converting. They're not converting because, hey, when's the last time you got on a call with your account rep to go over your performance? Oh, it's been 6 months. Great. Meanwhile, you write them a check for 12 grand every month, and you don't know what's going on. So a lot of it has to do, and it's almost like being a holistic doctor, right? You can be
Mhm.
able to every little thing, right? I was recently, I have some health problems and I don't want to follow the doctor's advice. Well, what am I doing? I did my research. I know where what is AC1, I think it's called. I know where I'm at. And, been at it for a little bit. Now it's getting better because I'm holistically fixing the things that don't work, right? And it's the same thing with sales. You fix the things that don't work. You don't just put a one size fits all solution. Hey, we're going to come in with this process. This is how it's going to be done. You have to look at your everything. You have to look at your people. Do I have the right
Mhm.
people? If I don't, who am I going to recruit? I like to recruit people that are, bartenders, that are servers, people that are more people friendly, but I also like people that love to communicate. I also want to recruit people that are social media friendly because doing video content's important. So, you know, do I have the right people? And if I don't, it's time for me to weed out the ones that are wrong and start to build in the right ones. And a lot of it, again, is KPI. There's KPI with people, there's KPI with processes, there's KPI with your advertising. Once you put all that together, that's when the success comes.
Sure, I definitely see that. Once you put those moving parts in alignment, you success is inevitable.
Mhm.
So right sizing organizations and, dealing with staff that aren't, as productive or efficient as they could be is a, issue across all industries.
Mhm.
When you come into a dealership, do you see a lot of, turnover happening as a result of your leadership training, or do you see individuals just start beginning to perform better, or is it a combination of both?
Combination of both. It really depends on how motivated somebody is. The hardest part, and this is part of this new generational thing, that the hardest part is just being motivated and wanting it. Right? People get into real estate thinking, oh, I'm going to make $1 million a year. I'm going to sell houses, but they don't realize that. there's a lot more to it. You have to mark yourself, you have to how to speak, you have to present yourself a certain way. And then that's why a lot of people fail because they realize that they don't want to do the extra work and invest into themselves. I've had people in my family that were like that
Mhm.
just told me to give up, right? I've given up on stuff in the past that I didn't want to invest time in. It has to do with what's here. I always tell people this. When you wake up in the morning, go on YouTube and watch something inspirational, whether it's me, whether it's a Grant Cardone or somebody really big, somebody that's on a whole other level that's made it. Go watch them. Go listen to their message. Spend 15 minutes a day just to align your mind before you start anything else. It's like exercise. Do it for
Sure.
your and I feel like that's a lot of people don't do that. 75 hard. I've been on it and I failed it many times. I came off due to health reasons recently, but you know, why do you have to read 10 pages of a book? Part of that because that's your discipline. It's got to be a part of you. When I wake up, I like to watch the YouTube video. I've been focusing on health a little more. I'm watching more health related videos by people who are accredited. Um, it's just constantly being naturally curious and questioning things. We question things when we're children. We have to
Mhm.
keep seeing things through the end. That's just my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I love the advice for the morning routine because a lot of people spend the first 15 minutes of the morning just doom scrolling TikTok. But if you fill your mind with something inspirational, it's going to make a difference for the day. It's just proven to work, and I'm amazed that more people don't do that.
Sure.
So you mentioned 75 hard. I love going off on tangents that involve endurance activities. I've heard of 75 hard. Can you share what 75 hard is and tell us a little bit about how your journey in 75 hard was and why it ended?
So I must have started 6 or 7 times. I've gotten to day 60 and had quit, which is crazy because I was 15 days from completing it. 75 hard. There's a gentleman named Andy Frisella. It's basically he created this program. It's a mindset shift. It's uh it's very militant because at any given step, if you cheat or mess up, you have to start over from day one. It really messes with your mind. The goal is this: you have to work out twice a day, 45 minutes each, one outdoors, one indoors, right? Doesn't matter if it's rain, shine, snow, whatever it is, you have to work out
Twice a
um,
day.
twice a day. One has to be outside. Then you have to have a healthy, balanced diet. You can't eat sugars. You have to read 10 pages of a book every day. You have to drink a bottle of water and you have to take a gallon of water. And then you have to take progress photos and there's an app and you put it in. So a lot of people fail. I unfortunately failed it. I got up to day 60. It was 2 years ago. Maybe it was last year. I think it was beginning of last year. Yeah, it was beginning of last year. I failed it because I got shin splints.
Oh no.
Working out, I did everything. I didn't cheat. I lost weight. Everything was good. And I got shin splints because I travel a lot. So one of the things I like to do when I travel, I like to go hiking. I bring my hiking shoes. If I'm done at 2 o'clock at a dealership and I'm going to the next town, I was in Pennsylvania a lot of pretty places. I would stop.
Yep.
I would change my clothes, go hiking for an hour. And I finally got shin splints and I didn't think about the fact that, well, why don't you just work up her body? I just gave up and I'm like, all right, I'm done. And finish it. And I got up to day 11, 10 or 11, 2 weeks ago. And what messed me up was I didn't have time to read. And I was driving from Canada. I was commuting and it started raining and I was in the middle of nowhere. And for safety reasons, I don't want to go hiking somewhere I can get lost.
Sure.
And it was raining and it was dark. And I'm like, all right, I'll restart. And then I never restarted it. It's been a few weeks because I had a little health scare about a week ago. And so I'm on a pause app, even though realistically, the way I've been operating for the last 5 or 6 days, I probably should be on day 6 because I've kind of been doing it.
Hey everyone, just a quick reminder that the Built to Finish podcast is brought to you by Accresis. Accresis have helped over 30 founders generate over $1 billion in wealth via strategic acquisitions or investor recapitalizations. If you're the owner of a middle market company and want to explore what a potential exit will look like for you, so that you can finally realize the value of what you've been working so hard on, please do contact Acresis via the website, acresis.com, or hit me up on LinkedIn for more information at Stephen Pivnik. Now, back to the show. Yeah, I guess, I mean, once you establish these habits, you may go through days, even though you're not officially on the program, you
Yeah.
may go through days where you just automatically do the majority of the things that you listed, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And for those listening and that are curious, so 75 hard is what Stan just described. There's also a program called 75 soft, I believe, which is just a little bit easier, right? Maybe one workout a day and a little bit less involved than 75 hard. I somebody told me that there's a version called 75 soft.
Yes, there
So
is.
it's just an easier routine than 75 hard.
I have friends that make fun of me because I said, "You keep posting this and you don't finish it, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, but at least, you know what? At least I'm not a fraud. I'm being honest. I messed up. I messed up." There are people that make fun of me. If I have a cheat meal, oh, 39 soft, they joke with me. Oh, looks like you're on 39 soft. They do joke with me about that. But
I don't think you mentioned this, but the 75 hard also includes not drinking, right?
yes,
In
no
addition
alcohol.
to a healthy diet.
Yes, no alcohol. I mean, there's anything about tobacco. I actually, believe it or not, have a crazy liquor collection. I don't drink. I maybe drink 4 or 5 times in a whole year.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
I don't drink, but I like it when I like to have stuff when people are, to entertain. I have like 70 bottles of wine. It's there. I don't drink. So I have no problem with that. I don't have a problem smoking. I like to smoke a cigar every now and then. I'll do that in the middle of the challenge. That's not part of
Right.
the guidelines.
Interesting. All right. So when do you think you're going to start again?
I don't know. Right now, I'm focused on body fat percentage. I don't know. I mean, I really probably could start any day because I'm technically doing it. I've just been working out so hard that I don't know if I have it in me to work out twice a day.
I know. I mean,
It's
I worked out a ton, and sometimes I do get in, 2 workouts a day. Once typically aerobic, running, swimming, or biking, and another one is weight training. But to do that for 75 days in a row, I mean, I have incredible willpower for these things. I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know if I can make it. I'm really interested in the challenge, so I may try to start it one day, but I'm not sure.
yeah. Read the book, Andy Frisella's done it. But my thing is that I have a personal trainer and I'm doing a lot of weight training. And, he's a bodybuilder. So he's got me doing bodybuilder training while also working on lowering body fat. So, last week, and this is kind of what scared me, beginning of last week, I got a little scared. I went to work out and I almost passed out. I've been working out for months with this guy, right? And maybe it's because I didn't eat enough that morning or whatever, but you know how it is when you do squats, you do legs, you get hungry quick. And so, when I do, he's got me working out I think like maybe 3 times a week. He's got me doing a 1 hour workout, but he's got me working out to the point where I'm like, for 4 and for 2, and it's like, it's more intense. So it's like this morning I woke up, I did cardio yesterday. I didn't lift yesterday. I was going to work out today and later on after 2 o'clock. And my legs are killing me. I'm sore, which is nice, but he's got me working out more intensely. That's why I can't do that in 75 hard. I have to stick to more cardio.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
those days.
Well, good luck when you start it again. Let me know. I may join you. Probably not, but I love a challenge, and when you do anything with somebody else, it just
Yeah,
increases the chances of success.
I agree.
So the program requires a ton of discipline and attention, right?
Yeah.
If somebody does something like 75 hard, how do you think that discipline translates, into their career and into their day job?
You have to, well, think of it this way, right? You're starting a business, right? You're going to have the most discipline because your livelihood is there. Fair Hillary trading. I made no money for a year. It was a year before I booked my first consulting, and whatever money I had saved, I spent and I invested it. And then I did something foolish. I went to a casino and I lost half of that first client's check because I was, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Champion. I went, and that was and I don't have a gambling problem, but I was celebrating and I went out and like, that was just a foolish thing to do. And I ended up like 6 months later, I won that money back. It is what it is. And I never lost that kind of money again. But, the discipline of having a business, when you know that you're responsible for things and you know that, um, and even now I have a business development call center in the Philippines, right? I sometimes have to make payroll for 10 people every week, right? And so you look at how you spend money differently. And it's the same thing with that discipline. You have to treat it as if you have to change your mindset as if you're looking after other people and you're not just responsible for you. You know, I don't have a wife and kids, but if I did, right, I would look at it from a different angle. I would treat it as if, well, guess what? My kids depend on me being around for them at 70 years old, right? My kids depend on it. So it's not about me, it's about them. You have to think of it like a family man, like a team leader. And I think that's also probably why sometimes I lack it because I don't have as many people to look after in that sense. If I did, I probably would look at it a little differently.
Yep, I hear you. I hear you. So you just mentioned something interesting. So you have an outsourced call center in the Philippines.
Yes.
How did you find the company that you're using, and is that working out for you? Is that something you would advise other entrepreneurs that are looking for business development routines to go after?
So I, because of what I train with car dealerships, I set up business development centers. The fad has become to outsource. Why? Because we're tired of paying useless people $20 an hour to come in and have drama and not show up to work. So what happened was a lot of dealerships out there created out these outsourced business development centers where instead of having a dealership have a 30, 40, $50,000 expense in employees for no production or mediocre production, they'll hire a company for a quarter of that to handle all that. They'll handle all the internet leads, the incoming phone calls, service appointments. Right? I've always hated that business model. And by the way, till this day, it's still my least favorite part of my business. I work with 3 dealers at the moment. It's not my least favorite part of my business. It's great to have the residual income, but it's the problem is, especially in unit development, everybody makes changes their mind like they change their underwear. It's like I can sign on a client, I can produce for them, and then 6 months later, we want to go back to and then 2 months later, we wanna go back to this, and they keep flipping and flopping, and that happens a lot with that part of the business, and, thankfully, I've got consistently where the clients I have now, where we're fairly consistent, but every now and then, recycling a client, it happens, and, because sometimes maybe we underperform, maybe they underperform, um, it's definitely and mine are in the Philippines, and the hardest part is finding people without the language barrier. I always listen for people that speak very clear English so that
Hmm.
they're professional. What I love about it is the work ethic is phenomenal. If we start at 9 o'clock in the morning, they're texting me at 8, hey, can I start now?
Wow.
Okay, cool. They put the time in. I pay them a salary, a monthly salary, which I pay them every other week. And I also give them bonuses. And the way that I do it is I treat them as if they're working for me. I try to give them the Apple Store experience or the Apple experience where um, somebody in the Philippines comes to work for me. They don't, I require 2 monitors. If they don't have another monitor, I'm like, here, find me a monitor, whatever it is, tell me the cost, and I'm going to send you the money for it. So if a year down the road you're not working with me, it's your monitor, it's your gift. Enjoy it. If it helps you in your life, so be it. It's one of the expenses that I incur. I charge that's part of my setup fee for when I set it up. I
Hmm.
think it's a great business model. The problem now is AI. Everybody is coming up with AI. I'm fielding AI messages at least 30 a day on LinkedIn. Either somebody wants to show me how they can fractionally help my business or they want to sell me AI. I got on a call with somebody last week. I was inside of a dealership and I had some time. I got on a conference call and they were demoing an AI program that's in 3 dealerships, right? And I had a hard time connecting to this AI, but then when I just like we did with our headphones before, right? But I go to demo this thing and I'm talking to it and I asked a question and it's taking 15 seconds to respond to me. So I'm like, this isn't working for me.
That's not
And,
acceptable.
and then I go on the next step. I go now. Let's imagine we're in the Bronx, right? Different kind of clientele. Okay. How do you and I hate to say, it, but how do you ghettoize your way of talking to somebody, right? Because that's just the clientele you have. You have to be able to adjust to the different personalities, whether you're selling a Mercedes Benz or you're selling a $5,000 used car. You have to be able to adjust to your audience. And you have this Harvard sounding professional. How is that person going to do you when they're talking to someone in the Bronx, or they're talking to somebody in an area like that, right? Or Camden, New Jersey, like, well, not far from where I live, right? So I started throwing all these words like, well, we can do this, we can do that. And by the time I was done, I'm like, I'm not interested, and I think that that's the next thing with AIs. I think they need to start programming their tools to be able to be
Mhm.
more efficient with different accents, with different environments. You have to know your audience. And
Agreed.
that's why people fail at this business. They don't know their audience.
No, I totally agree. I definitely think AI will get there. I mean, right now, it's definitely not one size fits all, but as AI is evolving quicker than any technology has ever evolved. So I agree
Yes.
that it's not there yet from the perspective you just mentioned, but it'll get there.
Yeah.
When you and I last spoke, you brought up a really interesting book called Let Them. And I picked it up right after we hung up, and I listen. I'm about 50% done with it.
Yeah.
Can you and you really really thought very highly of it, and I do as well. Can you explain what it is and why you like it?
Yeah. So I haven't met the author, but her name is Mel Robbins. Shout out to her if she gets to see this. I did mess her a couple times. She's got 1 million followers.
Yeah,
Um,
she's a
so
busy lady.
that is what inspired me to write the book that I'm writing now. Because at first I started writing books on automotive. I wanted to do one for buy here, pay here. I wanted to do one for retail. And that's all great. And I kind of wrote half of those books, and that's on the back burner. I wanted to do something more serious. And so when I'm driving to Maryland one day, I'm going into a dealership, and I'm like, you know what? Instead of listening to music today, I'm going to listen to a book. And I put on her book and I listened to it, and I finally finished it a few weeks ago, and I got into another book. And there's a lot of things that she talks about that, resonated with some of the things that I had. There's a story I talk about a narcissistic person I dealt with, and how dealing with that person, how it affected me, and how I handled the situation, how I should have handled it. And I need examples in my new book on how to handle situations and when we're communicating with people. And so listening to her book really inspired me on that. Things like she talked about in the beginning, how she would go crazy worrying about her son going to prom, and not bringing an umbrella or something like that, showing up, completely wet, and how she would be all concerned about it. And then she realized that just let them, just let them do their thing.
Mhm.
You know, if somebody doesn't invite you to a party, why let them? Just stop be worrying about, you know, and then think about, well, why is it that they really do? Well, maybe you're not as close with them anymore. Maybe you're distant. Maybe you moved 3,000 miles away. And then you start to realize that, hey, it's not just them, it's also me, right? So I think that kind of a lot of good self-awareness. And this year, 2025 has been a very big year for me for self-awareness with what I'm doing with for guest experience. Just the content of guest experience and communication skills and team building and everything for me, self-awareness, how to handle a situation. And I find myself, even till this day, transforming my mindset and how I act. And so as I'm listening to this book, I'm just like, wow, like this is me. This is me. And I love it. And I feel like every person should read it. I must have recommended this book to 20 people.
Mel should give you some royalties because
Yeah, right.
like I said, I'm 50% through with it, and I've recommended it to at least 3 or 4 people, and
Yeah.
I think it's a great read. Let Them by Mel Robbins.
Yep.
Stan, I want to thank you for taking the time and being
Sure.
on the show today. You've shared a lot of great actionable insights to folks. How do people get a hold of you if they would like to?
I have a couple of different websites. So there's stanshare.net. Is one. That's my main website. You can connect with me on social media if you're there. You can contact me, schedule a discovery call. I'm happy to connect with anybody. There's Stan at Dealer eTraining is my email address. Um, then I have dealeretraining.com is my automotive training website. And then I got so many now. I have bhph-training.com for a buy here, pay here dealer. That's a different part of automotive. That website just launched 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Towards the buy here, pay here part. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. Send me a message, connect with me. Text me. I don't mind. My phone number is on my website. Happy to connect with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all that information, and we'll put some of that in the show notes. Again, thank you very much for being on the show today, and thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Built to Finish. If you enjoyed this episode, please do like and share. It does help the show a lot, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you all next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Built to Finish. Thank you for tuning in. For show notes and more details, head over to podcast.stephenpivnik.com. Special thank you to our sponsor, Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Catch you next week.